Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Koff and I'm going to take you through how to do well in your first assignment for managing across borders. First of all, I want to jump onto the LMS and show you where to access all the information for this assignment. So when you download your case study, this is what it will look like. The case study is on Reed Fruits. They're a Tasmanian cherry growing company. They're exporting across the globe, but this case study is looking at what they did specifically in the Asian market when counterfeiting became a problem. So as you read through the case study, the issue that this company had is counterfeiting, and the impact that that had was on the loss of revenue and obviously an impact to their reputation as a company as well. So think about the issue, think about the impacts, because when you approach this, you'll need to have those in mind when you're looking at what actions they took in the Asian market. In this example for this case study, the action that they took was to engage a company called Lava, who used technology to create a digital fingerprint so that they could counteract the counterfeit happening with their boxes. So engaging a different company to include their skills and resources, that's one of the things that you'll look at the content is an option for companies to do as they expand globally. Okay, so when we come back to the instructions, you'll see you need to consider what those challenges were that Reed Fruits faced in the Asian market, and then consider them moving into a new market, the European market. What challenges might they face in that market, and how might they overcome those challenges? Technology might still be an issue for them. There may be supply chain management issues that they come across with, or different legal responsibilities that they need to abide by. Think about the cultural differences between the existing company in Australia and what the European market will face. Will there be differences in cultures from the employee's perspective or the consumers? I want you to draw on what they did in the Asian market. So in the Asian market, they had an issue. They chose to outsource the responsibility of that issue and engage a third-party company to do that for them. So think about how they approach it in Asia and how might they approach it in Europe. They already have existing resources available to them, but they also have needs that may be outside of the scope of what they can do. So I want you to think about all of that as you put together a business report. So now I'll just jump over to the presentation and I'll take you through what you need to do well in this assignment. Okay, before we get too far into it, the document type is a business report. There's lots of templates available for you if you look for business reports online. Try and find one that is succinct and easy to update for you. Think about the business report. The template is going to have different subheadings and things like that. Make sure you're using the ones in this presentation and the instructions online to make sure that you've covered all of the details that you need to as you go through the assignment. This is an individual report. You have a 1,000-word word limit. It's not going to take you very long to use those 1,000 words. So try and be really concise with your answers and make sure that you are referencing as many academic sources as you can. There's a minimum of 5 academic sources for this assessment. It's due on the 22nd of January, which means you have this weekend and next weekend to work on your assignment and just the week in between. So please try and get as much done this weekend as you can and let me know if you have any questions. You do need to submit this through Turnitin on the LMS, but I would suggest if you are able to complete a first draft this weekend to submit it to Studiosity during the week so that you can get some feedback on it before you complete your final assessment. That's the best way to do really, really well in this assignment because Studiosity can give you feedback on your grammar, your spelling, the syntax, also give you an indication about how your referencing score, if there's any exact matches on other things on the internet, for example. So I would recommend that you use that Studiosity site. It is available to you as a La Trobe student. So use it if you want to increase your marks on that. So I've taken you through where to find the case study. The case study is available under the assessment tab. It's also week 1B of your reading. The reason you'll find it in week 1B of your reading is because we want you to have read the things before that in week 1A and the recommended readings for week 1B before you get across to the case study. So you've already got an understanding of globalization and what some of these challenges will be before you read the case study. If you're reading the case study as the first thing that you've read for this assessment, or for this unit, please go back and read those other recommended readings and essential readings for this course, because it will put you in good stead for being able to approach the question being asked in this assignment. That question is, if Reed Fruit were to produce a new product like cherry jam, what globalization challenges might they encounter if they were to attempt to supply this product to the European market? So here you need an understanding of globalization, you need an understanding of the challenges, and also some of the barriers that they may face and how they might resolve some of those issues or mitigate some of those risks that they need to take to enter that new market. Okay, the structure of your report, because it is a business report, you should have a title page and an executive summary. Don't have an abstract for a business report, we have an executive summary. Then list your table of contents. If you're using figures or diagrams to illustrate anything that you're talking about, make sure that they are named in the or cited in the body of your report, but also list them as a list of figures underneath your table of contents. Then provide an introduction for your report, the findings and discussion, and then your recommendations. Here you need to do around 3 to 5 recommendations. It's probably better to have 3 really meaty recommendations rather than 5 brief ones, but how you approach this is really up to you. I'll give you some ideas as we go through that a little later. Then finally, you do a conclusion for your report, which will have your recommendations and what you believe the intended outcome will be, and put your references there. The referencing style for this report is Harvard referencing, so make sure that your references are consistent in the same size font, the same kind of text, and in alphabetical order. So your executive summary should be around 100 to 150 words. Generally speaking, about 10% of your word count goes into an executive summary. And in your executive summary, you want to summarize everything that you've spoken about in your report. So in a way, try and think about condensing each of those paragraphs in your report down to some sentences so that you can then introduce what you are speaking about in your report in that executive summary. So in your introduction, this is where you need to draw on the experiences that Reed Fruit had in Asia, and also introduce the issues that you think they will find in the European market. There's a lot of things that you can draw on, so you don't have to cover all of them, but mentioning these are all of the challenge that they may face, but the ones that you're going to concentrate on in this report. That's really what we're looking for in your introduction. So as you work through the readings and the activities from week 1A, week 1B, week 2A, and week 2B especially, you'll come across a lot of information that will help you with this section as well. So this is things like the global supply chain management and the use of technology, the different legal responsibilities you'll start to go through at the end of this week or the start of next week. So take note of what they are and the challenges that may cause to an international company. Then the language and cultural differences of employees and consumers. Skip ahead to weeks 3 and 4 to have a look at what some of those might be, and bring those into your report as well. So in your findings and discussion section of your report, this is where I want you to actually define the key concepts. So those academic references that you need a minimum of 5 of, this is a really good place to have those to bolster up your the credibility of the company that you're assuming the identity of for this report. So define the key concepts, things like globalization and some of those key challenges that you might say, so the legal responsibilities. Use the main literature that's on the LMS for you already. The textbook, if you have a copy of the textbook, it will make this section so much easier for you as well. Think about what the issues are. Draw on the literature that you have been provided, and then try and provide a detailed description of what those issues will be that reed fruits may encounter in a European market. You need about 150 to 200 words to do this well. So if after you've done this, you're at, say, 180 words, then don't add words for the sake of adding words. If you've explained things succinctly, then move on to the next section. That would be defining what each of those issues are. Again, use the academic literature to find some definitions of that, or draw some definitions from the textbook. Outline what those issues are, and then provide some details about how the issues actually affect reed fruits here in Australia. So again, about 150 to 200 words would be an appropriate amount of words to spend on that section. So when you outline the issue, the marks in this section really depend on your references and the details that you are providing on some of those issues that we've looked at in class. So that's your global supply chain management, using technology to overcome some of those barriers, variation in legal responsibilities between the countries, then those language and cultural differences. So when you're explaining language and cultural differences, be specific about whether it's the differences of employees between the host country and the home country, or whether it's the consumers in the new country that the company is expanding into. Then use the opportunity to put in any other globalization issues that you may have identified in your weekly readings, and put that in there as outlining the issues as well. Okay, so when you get to the recommendations section of your report, have a think about how you want to approach this, whether you're doing 3 large recommendations or 5 smaller recommendations, because the words that you allocate for each of those will be different depending on the approach that you're taking. What I want you to do is to provide a really clear explanation about the issues that you have identified, the consequences or the impact of those issues that they're going to be on the company if something isn't done to mitigate those issues, and then what actions you are recommending the company take in that country. So make sure that your recommendations are clear. Try and put them into chronological order. So what should the company do immediately? What should they do in the short term? What should they do in the midterm? And what should they do in the long term? So think about putting some timing around your recommendations as well. So your recommendations should address all the issues and problems that you've identified in the previous part of your report, analyze and follow logically in your analysis, so in a logical succession. So like I said, what should they be doing first? Make sure you provide some justification for each of the recommendations. So in doing this, your justification really draw on the literature that's been provided, or any other literature that you come across, or journal articles that you come across that provide some justification around why that action might be a positive thing for the company to do. It says here to start each recommendation with a new subheading. So this not only helps with the marking of your assessment, it also helps you understand, or helps you put together a report that is evenly weighted between these recommendations. If you've got 3 recommendations at 100 words each, for example, and it will look consistent in your report. But if you've got 3 recommendations and your first recommendation is only 25 words, and then you've got a recommendation that's 150 words and then a 75-word recommendation, that shows that maybe there's a couple of recommendations there that you haven't provided enough justification for, and maybe there's one that you've perhaps gone into too much detail for. So think about being concise, but also providing a consistent approach to what your recommendations are. So I want you to explain how your recommendation is going to enable the company to enter the European market. What is it that recommendation does for the company? Does it make things easier for them in terms of cost effectiveness? Is it human resources? Think about the impact that it has on the company. How will the strategy recommendation be implemented? So who will be responsible? Will it be outsourced, or is it something that they will do in-house? Will it be handled by the home country or the host country? Have a look if it will be done immediately, or short-term, mid-term, or long-term, and then explain what the consequences of not adopting that recommendation within that time frame will be. So this is if your recommendations aren't followed, what might go wrong for the company. So your conclusion should be about 100 to 150 words. It's a brief outline of what your proposed timeline is, what your proposed recommendations are, and what the consequences are. So your final statement of your conclusion, have something that explains what your expectations of what those results will be if all of your recommendations are implemented. Would you expect the going into the European market being easy? Would you think it'd be fast? Would it be cost effective for them to do it? Or is your recommendation something that needs to be considered in further detail? So this is a question that I get asked a lot, and no, your references are not included in your word count. So don't worry if you have gone over 1,000 words in your word count and your word is including the references. I'll turn that off in Turnitin when I go into mark your assignments. So make sure that all of your references are in the same font, in the same font size, in alphabetical order, and consistent with Harvard referencing style. So if you're not familiar with that or you haven't used it in the past, make sure you head over to the La Trobe website, the La Trobe Library website. There is an academic referencing tool which will help you get your conventions right. There's also a way of using Word as a referencing manager so that you can use Word as your in-text citations and provide a reference list at the end. If you need some help with that, let me know. The next thing is just to save your document with my last name, which is Koff, that's COFF, and an underscore, and then your student ID. So save your document like that before it goes into Turnitin. So just reiterating that these are the expectations of your assignment. The report should imitate a business report, so it should have the look and feel of a business report. Your definitions should be concise and all appropriately cited. Don't define something without giving me the citation for it. Your arguments and recommendations should be based on relevant academic literature. For the academic literature to be relevant, it also needs to be quite recent. So think about academic literature that's been released in the past 5 years. Anything longer than that may be out of date. It says on the screen to have a minimum of 8 academic peer-reviewed journal articles included. However, you could have 5 for this assignment. That should be fine. Don't forget your textbook may also be a reference. And if you're referencing details from the actual case study, include the case study in your reference list as well. So the report should demonstrate your understanding of the literature and content covered in the classes so far. So this is especially class 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. So remember to use your own words, but also acknowledge all the sources that you use. So that may be from the recommended readings during those weeks, as well as the textbook itself. Wikipedia and similar peer-to-peer websites absolutely not appropriate for you to use. There is a good way of using Wikipedia for good instead of evil. If you are getting information from Wikipedia, please don't cite Wikipedia or get any information from Wikipedia without scrolling down to the very bottom of the page that you've clicked on. And at the bottom of the page are the academic sources. So use Wikipedia. Quite often the number will take you directly to the link and the link will take you directly to the document, the original document. So please use the original source documents, not Wikipedia. Wikipedia can help you find those documents though, or help you link into some other relevant websites like some government websites, but please don't use Wikipedia. A relevant government website for this assignment might be something like Austrade, where you'll get some information about what's available to Australian companies as they export overseas. So that would be a good place to start. Try and keep direct quotes to a minimum, but if you are using direct quotes, make sure that you've got your page numbers included and your quotation marks either side of that. That's really important with Turnitin, because if your Turnitin score is too high, then your submission will need to get reviewed by the academic integrity team before I can actually mark it. So please be mindful of referencing things and putting things in text citation properly so that we can get your Turnitin score as low as possible. So make sure your report's written very clearly, concisely, and is error-free. So this, what I mean by error-free is no spelling mistakes. If you need some help, if English isn't your first language, then please tap into the library. There's peer support in the library available for you. And also the Studiosity site will really help you to make sure that the report that you're submitting is as error-free as possible. Your report should use headings and subheadings wherever is appropriate. Try and use subheadings, especially in the recommendation section. Make sure that your final document looks professional. Is it something that you would be proud to hand in your workplace? That's the look and feel that we're looking for. So if you've made it through to this part, this is the 10-step program to doing really, really well in this assignment. First of all, just develop an understanding of what the requirements are of the assignment. Make sure that you read through the case study before you read the question, or read the question before you read the case study, but then make sure that you've got an understanding about how both of them relate. Highlight the case study as you're going through and look for key things that may help you answer the question about how Reed Fruits might be able to expand into the European market. Identify what those specific issues are and try and identify them in terms of what week you go through them. So is it week 1A or week 1B? When was that discussed in the content of the class? If you can identify the week that the content was discussed, that's going to link you in with some additional resources and references that you can then use to use in your assignment. Then gather those journal articles and any other relevant sources. With this subject, a lot of work has been done in making sure that you've got access to relevant journal articles and the textbook as well. So try and use those. You don't have to look too far for something that's going to be genuinely helpful in getting you across the mark for this assignment. Define each of the key terms. This is where the textbook really comes into its own, because the textbook has some brilliant definitions of some of those key terms. It's very concise in their writing, and if you are quoting from the textbook, please use quotation marks, but try and summarize or paraphrase what those definitions are as much as you can, but still put the in-text citation there. Provide a succinct introduction and conclusion and an executive summary. Make sure that your introduction and your conclusion match each other so that what you're talking about in one is also mentioned in the other, and make sure that what is in your executive summary actually matches the body of your report. Having a look at your executive summary and your table of contents, especially if you've got your table of contents, if your subheadings are in your table of contents, will help you make sure that you've matched everything and that you've addressed everything that you were going to talk about. Ensure that all of your words are your own and all sources are cited appropriately. Turnitin is great at now letting us identify if you've used websites like Course Hero or things like that, which are collusion websites. We just take that straight to academic integrity. So please don't try and use websites like that to get help on this assignment. It's not help, it is plagiarism. Format your report to a business standard. So I've gone through that a couple of times. The reason I keep going on about that is they're really easy marks for you to get for this assignment is if your report looks like a business report. Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it error-free? Really easy marks, and Studiosity can help you to get those easy marks. So at least 2 days prior to the due date, try and get it into Studiosity so that they can have a look and provide you some recommendations. It's very easy to go from an A to a B if you've used Studiosity to pick up on some of those errors that you may have lost marks for. So it is absolutely a really good tool for you to use. Update any of the issues that they point out and then submit it to Turnitin before 11:59 p.m. on the 22nd of January. So that is next Sunday. You have this weekend, you have next weekend, and you have the weekend between. Just 10 days to get this assignment over the line. So I've done everything that I can in putting this session together for you. Let me know if you have any further questions, but all I can say is everything that you need to do really well in this assignment is available for you on the LMS. Okay, thank you. Bye.